Hello, space friends. Captain Snuggles here, bringing you another episode of X4 Oversimplified. This game is insanely complicated. Any video less than 2 hours long is probably oversimplified, so I can slap that label on anything, but I really am going to try to boil things down to the bare minimum, and then boil them down some more. This series is mainly meant for new players, not as a comprehensive guide, but just as a solid foundation to lay the groundwork for future learning. In this episode, we'll be covering another contentious topic, the AI. AI is pervasive throughout the game, and no matter what your playstyle is, you'll need to interact with it almost constantly. Furthermore, you'll need to have a basic understanding of it if you want to keep watching this series, so we're covering it nice and early. This video will, by necessity, be more technical and more objective than the first episode, but I will still try to keep it both lighthearted and straightforward. Here's an important note. I have my own opinions on what the AI should be, as does everyone else. I will not be discussing those opinions. I'm not here to talk about what the AI should be. I'm here to talk about what it actually is. The reality, good, bad, and ugly, of the scripts that drive everything in the game. I've put out a lot of content related to X4's AI, and on one of those videos, one of the first comments was just, "Not AI," in all caps. And that guy was right. Just like the vast majority of games, this is not actual artificial intelligence, just a set of scripts that we call AI. Specifically, this is a set of scripts that create an imperfect simulation of imperfect people. An imperfect simulation of imperfect people. Let's break that down, starting with the imperfect people. These scripts are attempting to simulate real people. There are some experts, some novices, and a lot of people in the middle. Experts can fail miserably, and novices can succeed spectacularly, but it's much more likely to be the other way around. The way it simulates all that is through RNG. Think of it as dice rolls. Specifically, modified dice rolls. My fellow tabletop enjoyers will recognize that term. To determine the outcome of most activities, the game rolls a die, generates a random number. The result is modified by the skill level of the person or people attempting the activity, usually the ship's captain and/or crew. The specific skill depends on the activity. Whatever the skill is, the higher the skill level, the more favorably the die roll is modified. Rapid fire time. The skills are piloting, engineering, management, boarding, and morale. Piloting is the primary skill for ship's captains. Engineering is the primary skill for service crew. Management is the primary skill for station managers. Boarding is the primary skill for Marines, and morale is the secondary skill for everyone. Crew can have up to 5 stars in a skill. Each star is divided into 3 thirds. Each third is 1 point, so each skill has a maximum value of 15 points. Combined skill for a crew member is a weighted average of primary and secondary skills. Combined skill for a ship is a weighted average of the combined skills of all the crew members. Marines and empty crew slots are counted as zeros. Zeros are bad. Combined skill is a critical statistic for many behaviors, and you do not want zeros unless you absolutely need them. Rapid fire over. Moving on, a few extra notes on the interaction of skill and RNG. First, some activities do not have dice rolls and just have flat values that scale with crew skill. Second, you'll frequently have multiple rolls in quick succession, especially in combat. And third, in combat, dice rolls are opposed. Your ship and the enemy ship both roll dice to determine how they behave on offense and defense. It is possible for a less skilled ship to repeatedly roll well, while a more skilled ship repeatedly rolls poorly, allowing the less skilled ship to win, although it's usually the other way around. One really interesting interaction between skill and RNG is that gaining skill is actually determined by a die roll. Whenever a crew member completes a task, they have a chance to gain a point in morale as well as their primary skill. That chance increases with the difficulty of the task, and the chance decreases with the crew member's starting skill level. What that means is that, after a reasonable amount of playtime, you're likely to end up with a tiny handful of 5-star crew, a decent many 4-star, some 1-star, and a ton of average Joes sitting right in the middle around 2 or 3 stars. So, in theory, this system produces a pretty realistic skill distribution. Because of that skill distribution, and because of the way the RNG works, there's a lot of variability in the outcomes of various activities, especially combat. It is rare for success or failure to be 100% guaranteed, and that's the idea. That's the core concept behind this system. Before we even start talking about the system's limitations, I should mention a lot of people do not like the core concept. And so, a lot of people choose to install mods that change the way crew skills work. I'm not here to talk about mods, but they are out there. So, again, the AI is an imperfect simulation of imperfect people. Now we finally covered the imperfect people part, so we can move on to the imperfect simulation part. This simulation is deliberately imperfect. It sacrifices perfection for simplicity. It needs to be simple because it's running on every ship in the game all at once, your ships and others, whether you can see them or not. Additional complexity would dramatically reduce game performance. To avoid that, there are a few ways Egosoft keeps the AI simple. First, the AI is just plain slow. There are pauses deliberately built into the scripts, and there are pauses that happen organically as various dice are rolled and the results are processed. Sometimes the pauses are so short they're barely perceptible, other times they're painfully long. As a result, ship AI's behavior is always slower than the player, and it tends to have a choppy cadence. The second way the AI is simplified is attention levels. Attention levels basically refer to how closely the player is observing the AI's behavior. High attention simulation occurs in a roughly 150 kilometer radius bubble around your camera. Low attention simulation occurs outside that bubble. The high attention simulation models everything. Ships, projectiles, turret orientations, debris, even the movements of individual crew members. Everything. The low attention simulation is the exact opposite. It basically operates on raw numbers, with no physics involved. Unless you open the map. If you're observing something distant on the map, technically it's still low attention mode, but with some very limited physics simulation added. Sort of like low attention plus. The attention mode method improves game performance by focusing processing power on things the player is actually paying attention to, while cutting corners on the background simulation. Alright, so that's 2 ways the AI is simplified, improving performance by deliberately producing an imperfect simulation. There's one more major way, and I've saved the best for last. Here's where the line between simple and imperfect really gets crossed. The thing that drives players absolutely insane. The AI is incapable of making predictions. Think of chess AI. It is specifically programmed to think a certain number of moves ahead, predict the opponent's responses for each of those moves, and plan its own responses accordingly. A lot of games use AI that works similarly, or at least gives the appearance of working similarly. X4's AI doesn't even try. If you have dozens or hundreds of ships doing battle in 3-dimensional space, it would take a colossal amount of computing power to predict their behavior just 1 or 2 moves ahead. So, X4's AI doesn't. It makes its decisions based on the orders it's been issued and the feedback it's receiving from its environment in that particular moment. Here's an example. In this clip, this Sin has been fighting a group of my destroyers. The battle did not go well for it. It took hits from several destroyers, evaluated the incoming damage, and decided to reposition. As it repositions, its collision avoidance script is aware that there are objects in its path, and it has adjusted its course to avoid collisions. A player could further look at those objects, identify them as 5 enemy destroyers, assess that they're an overwhelming threat, and adjust course to fully avoid their fields of fire. The AI can't do any of that. Instead, it flies directly into their guns. It only identifies them as a threat once they start actually dealing damage to it, and at that point, it is too late. Because the AI cannot make predictions, situations like that will happen to you. They cannot be fully avoided because they're built into the system's design, just like dice rolls and crew skills. So, once again, this is a deeply and deliberately imperfect simulation of imperfect people. A system where, by design, neither success nor failure is ever truly guaranteed. However, we can maximize the chance of success and minimize the chance of failure, and the first step towards doing both of those things is to understand how the AI works. We have covered the basics here, and I can recommend some further reading. The Steam guide X4 In-Depth FAQ by Kitten Mittens is where I got most of my foundational knowledge on the AI. If you want the fine details of how the AI works, that's your source. As of this recording, that guide has not yet been updated for version 7.0, but the author is working on it. With that, I'll close out this video and pass the baton over to Kitten Mittens to teach you more. I know it seems like we covered a lot here, but read that guide and you'll realize that this video was really and truly oversimplified. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll tune in next time, and until then, this is Captain Snuggles, signing off.